Welcome back. Today we're actually going to cover the life processes. We've been talking about it in class a bit, but here are some notes. So how do you tell if something's living or not? Pause the video, jot some stuff down. Hopefully you got a chance to jot some stuff down. So some signs of life include cellular organization, reproduction, passing hereditary information to the next offspring or the next generation, growth and or development, and the organism has to adjust to its surroundings in some shape or form. To be living, you must show all of these characteristics. You can't just skip one because it's not gonna allow you to survive out in the environment. So for one, cellular organizations, all living things have an orderly structure. They're made of at least one cell, and each of those cells have some genetic information, which we refer to as DNA. We will learn much more about DNA later on in the year. Next up is reproduction. Living things need to produce fertile offspring. Now, when we get later on in this lecture, you're going to understand what fertile means, but it means to have offspring that can actually also have offspring. And I'll give you an example of where that does not apply. Living things actually need to grow from one cell to become a bigger unicellular organism, one-celled organism, or multicellular. So on the left, we have some amoebas. They're single-celled organisms. They will just grow in size. Versus on the right, we have some Cocker Spaniel dogs where they started out after the sperm and egg joined together as a single cell, but then the cell kept replicating through the process of mitosis, and you end up with a multicellular organism. The organisms also need to adjust to surroundings. This is in order to maintain homeostasis. If you break the word homeostasis down, homeo or homo means the same or similar, and stasis means status. So you're talking about the same status or similar status or a stable state. Some words I'd like you to know when you're talking about homeostasis or adjusting to your surroundings are stimulus and response. The stimulus is anything in the environment causing a reaction, and your response is our reaction to the stimulus. So let's say you're playing around with your friends and you have a paper ball, and the paper ball is thrown at your face. So your stimulus is going to be the ball flying at your face, the paper ball flying at your face, and the response is going to be you closing your eyes so that way you don't get hurt. Think about this. When it's cold out, does our body temperature change with the outside temperature? How does our body keep us from getting too hot in the summer? So, two things, think about it, write some stuff down, and we'll get to it in just a second. So when it's cold outside, your body actually starts to shiver, which is your body trying to maintain homeostasis. By shivering, what it's doing is making all your muscles contract over and over and over. And muscle movement causes your body to use energy, which releases heat, because you need to make more energy, and your body actually uses heat to do this process. That's why when we're very active, like during gym or running up the stairs or running down the block after one of our friends, you actually start to sweat. You're not only sweating because you're producing too much heat, your body is trying to regulate your body temperature, which brings me into my next example. Now, what happens during the summer when you get too hot? You start sweating more and more and more. The whole idea is that as your sweat starts to evaporate, you're going to start cooling off because as the sweat evaporates off your skin, it's bringing some of the heat off. In order to stay alive, living things rely on certain processes. We call these metabolic processes, and all of these processes are related to chemical reactions. So the very basic definition for metabolism is all the chemical reactions that go on in your body. The purpose of these life processes is all to maintain homeostasis, stable, constant body conditions. Any time that your body is not in homeostasis, you are either sick or you will die. I don't mean to be blunt about the death comment, but those are some extreme conditions that would explain homeostasis. So the 8 major life processes you can actually remember by good night rest, spelled with 3 R's: growth, nutrition, regulation, reproduction, respiration, excretion, synthesis, and transport. So when we're talking about growth, some organisms stay one cell but grow in size. Other organisms, such as humans, start out as one cell and they go through many changes, which we call development. So over time, more and more cells will be produced. If you look over to the right, you see a very tall man and a normal sized man. Obviously, the guy on the left went through a lot of development, and his rate of cells being reproduced in order to grow was rapid compared to the other guy. Nutrition, we all need to obtain materials needed for performing life functions in some shape or form. Two ways for this to happen is heterotrophic nutrition, is when the organism relies on an outside source or another source for food and nutrition, versus something that is autotrophic, that performs photosynthesis and makes their own food internally. Regulation, control, and coordinating life functions for survival. Again, the whole main purpose of this is to maintain homeostasis, and this is the internal environment. We're not bringing the external environment into this. The external environment can affect the internal environment, which is why we may start shivering or sweating, depending on the conditions that our body are trying to maintain. Reproduction, production of new individuals. There are two ways. Asexual reproduction refers to one parent. All of the offspring will actually be genetically identical to the parent if they're asexually reproducing. And the other form is sexual reproduction using two parents, which are getting half the genetic information from parent one and half the genetic information from parent two, resulting in a new genetic combination. Now, reproduction is not essential for the organism, the individual organism, to survive, but as a species, the reproduction is very important, because without reproduction, you're not going to have the next generation of that species. So, what do I mean? Okay, so let's think about ligers, the mule, or a zebroid, which you see in the bottom right. Only organisms of the same species can produce fertile offspring. Fertile offspring means that the next generation can actually produce another generation of that same species. So a tiger and a lion can produce a liger, or a donkey and a horse can produce a mule, or a zebra and a horse can produce a zebroid. All three of these are living organisms, but they cannot produce fertile offspring. So once they are born, they will essentially die. Even if they attempted to mate, they will not even get pregnant or be able to produce the next generation. Respiration is just converting chemical energy that is stored in food to usable forms for each of the cells. Food molecules are changed into usable energy or waste products. We will get into human cellular respiration and photosynthesis in 2 units. And there are two forms. Aerobic respiration uses oxygen, and anaerobic respiration does not. Next, we have excretion, which is the removal of harmful metabolic waste from the cells and from the body, depending on what type of organism you're discussing. Remember, metabolism is all the chemical reactions that happen inside the body, and you actually end up with waste products. So just from respiration alone, humans, we breathe in oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. So therefore, that is a form of excretion. In addition, we produce urea, which is found in our urine, and also found in our sweat. So sweating is getting rid of salts, extra liquids, extra water, as well as some additional waste. Synthesis is molecular building. We didn't really talk about this in class too much, but this is the production and building of needed chemicals in a living organism. So we ingest food and we take in all the necessary nutrients we need, but we also get a lot of extra stuff. So, for example, like when we eat meat or things that have protein in them, our body breaks down proteins into the building blocks of proteins, which are amino acids. And in order for your body to repair your muscles or make enzymes, your body uses those building blocks to build and synthesize the chemicals or the proteins or the enzymes that it needs to repair muscles or break down additional food or create a chemical in the body that's sending a message. There's a lot that goes on inside the body that you don't know of yet, but we will learn a lot more when we get to the human body systems. Lastly, transport. This is the distribution of necessary materials to maintain life and moving out of metabolic waste. In humans, we have the circulatory system, which is its main function is to move materials around the human body. These are through all of the blood vessels. the veins, the arteries, the capillaries, everything in between, and the major pump of the body, which is the heart. So, as our heart's constantly pumping and moving that blood through all the blood vessels, the blood is being pumped through the lungs, which is picking up oxygen and getting rid of carbon dioxide. It's also passing by all of the capillaries that are found in the small intestine and the stomach and picking up extra nutrients. And when you get to the large intestine, it's picking up water or it is getting rid of water inside the kidneys. All of this is happening simultaneously, and your body is working very, very, very hard to maintain homeostasis. I hope this lecture helped everyone and look forward to the next one.